Nova's laughter used to light up rooms like the fireworks over the Alhambra during Feria de Abril. Bright, unapologetic. A spark that made you believe in second chances. We'd met 3 years ago in a dive bar off La Rambla. The kind where tourists nurse sangria and locals nurse grudges. I was Nora Hale, a 32-year-old freelance photographer scraping by on gigs shooting weddings and protests, my camera a shield against the world that had orphaned me young. She was Nova Reyes, 34, heir to Apex Genomics, the biotech behemoth her father, Victor Reyes, had forged from Silicon Valley ambition transplanted to Spanish soil. He was the king of gene editing, turning whispers of DNA into fortunes, but Nova? She was the rebellion in his boardroom, the one who snuck out in leather jackets to dance until dawn, pretending the weight of expectation wasn't crushing her. That night, she slid onto the stool next to me, her dark eyes scanning the room like she was casing a heist. "You look like you're photographing souls, not selfies," she said, nodding at my Canon slung over the bar. I laughed. God, it had been months since I'd done that, and shot back. "Only if they pay extra for the filters." By closing time, we were tangled in conversation about Matisse's colors bleeding into Goya's shadows, her hand brushing mine as she passed the olives. When she kissed me outside under the neon glow, it tasted like freedom, like the first rain after a drought. We didn't talk about her father until our third date, a picnic on the beach at Costa Brava where the Mediterranean licked at our toes. Nova traced patterns in the sand with a stick, her long black hair whipping in the wind. "He's building gods in a lab," she said, voice laced with that mix of awe and acid only family could brew. "CRISPR tweaks for the elite. Longer lives, perfect kids. But it's all locked behind paywalls. What about the rest of us?" I listened, my heart twisting because I saw the fracture lines in her. The Yale-educated prodigy who dropped out of the family business to find herself, only to circle back like a moth to flame. I told her about my own ghosts. Parents lost to a car wreck in the Pyrenees when I was 10, bounced between foster homes that taught me love was a loan, not a gift. "We're both runaways in our own way," I said, and she leaned in, her lips soft against mine, sealing a pact neither of us understood yet. The affair burned hot and hidden. Stolen weekends in Seville's hidden patios, where flamenco guitars wailed our secrets. Lazy afternoons in Granada's tea houses, her head on my lap as we dreamed of a life beyond the Reyes shadow. Nova was electric, fierce debates over tapas about ethics in biotech, her hands gesturing like a conductor, then gentle as she bandaged a cut on my thumb from a shattered lens. I captured her in frames, laughing mid-bite of churros, eyes closed against the sun in Ronda's gorge, vulnerable in the half-light of my tiny apartment, whispering, "You're the only real thing I've ever touched." But Victor Reyes didn't build an empire by ignoring cracks in the foundation. 6 months in, the private investigators showed up, shadowy men in suits tailing me through the markets of Córdoba, snapping photos that ended up on Nova's doorstep. The confrontation came on a crisp autumn evening in their sprawling villa outside Barcelona. All glass walls and marble floors overlooking the sea. I wasn't invited, of course, but Nova had smuggled me in through the service entrance, hearts pounding like thieves. We were in the library, surrounded by first editions Victor collected like trophies, when the door swung open. He was taller than I'd imagined, 62 but unbowed, silver hair slicked back, eyes like polished obsidian. "So this is the distraction," he said, not looking at me, his voice a scalpel. Nova stepped forward, chin high. "Her name is Nora, Dad. And she's not a distraction, she's mine." The room went still, the air thick with the scent of leather-bound books and unspoken ultimatums. Victor's gaze finally landed on me, dissecting. "You think you can play house with my daughter? Apex isn't a game, Miss Hale. It's legacy. And legacies don't bend for whims." He offered me a check, 6 figures, enough to vanish to America, start over with real opportunities. I tore it up on the spot, the pieces fluttering like confetti at a funeral. Nova's face crumpled, then hardened. "We're leaving," she said, grabbing my hand. "Both of us." Victor laughed, a sound like grinding gears. "Leave? With what? Your trust fund dries up the second you cross that threshold. And you, Nora, good luck freelancing your way out of obscurity." But we walked out anyway into the night, the villa's lights fading behind us like a dying star. The first year was bliss wrapped in barbed wire. We settled in a rented casita in Malaga, whitewashed walls and terracotta tiles overlooking the almond groves. Nova waitressed at a beachside cafe, her MBA gathering dust, while I picked up gigs shooting for local magazines, sunsets over the Alcazaba, portraits of fisherfolk with salt-cracked hands. We married in a quiet civil ceremony at the town hall, just us and a notary who didn't blink at two women in sundresses exchanging vows. I choose you every fractured piece, Nova said, her ring, a simple silver band etched with waves, slipping onto my finger. Elena came 9 months later, a surprise conceived through a clinic in Lisbon we could barely afford, her cries filling our home like the first notes of a symphony. But shadows lengthened. Victor's lawyers sent cease and desist letters when Nova tried consulting on ethical biotech startups, claiming non-competes from her internship days. My photos of protests against corporate overreach started getting flagged, gigs drying up as whispers spread. Don't hire the girl who stole the princess. We fought, quiet at first, then sharper words like, is this worth it? Hanging in the air after bills piled up. Nova would pace the balcony at dawn, staring at the sea, murmuring, he'll come around. He has to. I held her then, believing it because I believed in us. The diagnosis hit like a rogue wave. Elena, at 2 months, wasn't gaining weight right, her cries weak, her skin pale as the moon over the Sierra Nevada. The pediatrician in Malaga sent us to specialists in Seville, then Madrid, a carousel of blood draws and scans. Congenital mitochondrial disorder, the doctor finally said, in a sterile room that smelled of antiseptic and despair. Rare. Progressive. Without intervention, her heart. He trailed off, but the chart said it, failure by 5 if we were lucky. The treatment? A gene therapy vector, cutting-edge, proprietary, developed by Apex Genomics. Victor's crown jewel, approved only for trials, doled out to the wealthy or the connected. Nova's hands shook as she scrolled the press release on her cracked phone. It's him, she whispered. He holds the strings. We drove home in silence, the highway blurring through tears, Elena asleep in her carrier, oblivious to the empire that might save her, or doom us. The call came at midnight, 3 weeks after the diagnosis, as thunder rattled the shutters of our casita. I was rocking Elena in the nursery, her breath shallow rasps that twisted my gut, when Nova's phone lit up with a Barcelona number. She froze in the doorway, bathrobe slipping off one shoulder, her face a mask of dread and defiance. Don't answer, I mouthed, but she did, putting it on speaker so the ghost in the machine could haunt us both. Nova, Victor's voice, smooth as aged Rioja. I've been waiting for you to come to your senses. No hello, no warmth. Just the assumption of surrender. She gripped the doorframe, knuckles white. This isn't about senses, Dad. It's about Elena. A pause, heavy as the storm outside. I know about the girl. My people flagged it in the databases. Apex could help. We have the protocol, phase 3 trials, but I can fast track. My heart leaped, then plummeted. There it was. The hook baited with our baby's life. Nova's eyes met mine, pleading for guidance I didn't have. What's the catch? She asked, voice steady despite the tremor in her lip. Victor chuckled, low and knowing. Come home. Both of you. We'll talk terms. Legacy isn't just blood. It's choices. He hung up before she could respond, leaving the line dead, the room spinning. I set Elena down, crossed to Nova, pulling her into my arms. It's a trap, I said, but even I heard the doubt. For Elena, we'd dance with devils. The drive to Barcelona was a funeral procession in reverse, winding through olive orchards under skies that wept for us. Elena fussed the whole way, her fever spiking, forcing stops at dingy service stations where I'd change her diaper on the hood of the car. Nova pacing with thermos coffee, muttering Spanish curses at the horizon. He wants control, she said at one pit stop, leaning against the Fiat. Always has. But for her. Nora, what if it's the only way? I cupped her face, thumbs brushing away rain or tears, I couldn't tell. Then we go in smart. No deals without lawyers. No giving him back his throne. The villa loomed like a modernist fortress, all sharp angles and infinity pools reflecting the stormy sea. Guards at the gate waved us through, too easy, a velvet glove over the iron fist. Victor met us in the foyer, impeccably suited, a glass of sherry in hand. His eyes softened fractionally at Elena, cradled in my arms, but it was calculation, not compassion. She's beautiful, he said, not touching her. Like her mother. Nova stiffened beside me. Cut the charm, Dad. The treatment details. Now. We moved to his study, a war room of screens and whiteboards scrawled with genetic maps. He laid it out clinically. The vector, a CRISPR-Cas9 hybrid tailored to Elena's mutation, 85% efficacy in mice, human trials showing promise. But, he added, leaning back in his leather chair, access requires oversight. You'll rejoin the company, Nova VP of Ethics say. Shape it from within. And Nora, well, photographers make excellent documentarians. We could use your eye for our PR campaigns. It was a cage disguised as salvation, golden bars etched with our names. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You think we'll sell our souls for a spotlight? Victor's gaze hardened. Souls? This is science, Miss Hale. Pragmatism. Refuse and Elena joins the waitlist, years if ever. Nova exploded then, slamming her fist on the desk. She's your granddaughter. Not a bargaining chip. The room crackled. Father and daughter mirrors of rage, until Victor sighed, deflating. I built this to save lives, not hoard them. But empires demand tribute. He slid a contract across the desk. Pages thick as a Bible, clauses like thorns. That night we stayed in the guest wing. A farce of hospitality with locked doors and monitored calls. Elena slept fitfully in a bassinet of Egyptian cotton, while Nova and I lay awake, whispering battle plans. We sign but sabotage from inside, she said, her head on my chest. Leak the patents, open source the tech. Make it for everyone. I kissed her forehead, tasting salt. And if he finds out? Her silence was answer enough, betrayal's shadow already creeping. The next months blurred into a tense détente. Nova dove into Apex, her old office a glass area overlooking the port, brainstorming ethical guidelines that chipped at Victor's fortress. I tagged along as creative consultant, my camera capturing not glossy ads but raw stories, patients denied trials, families fractured by costs. Elena's first infusion was a miracle. Administered in the company clinic, her color returning, cries strengthening like a flower unfurling. We celebrated with paella on the villa's terrace, Victor toasting to family. His eyes never leaving Nova, gauging loyalty. But cracks spiderwebbed. Victor's paranoia bloomed. Random audits of Nova's emails, my hard drives backed up without consent. One evening after a board meeting where Nova pushed for affordable access, he cornered her in the hallway. You're playing with fire, Hija. Remember I made you. She came home shaking, collapsing into my arms. He's changing the protocols, locking Elena's data, using it to justify higher barriers. Our lovemaking that night was desperate. A reaffirmation amid the ruins, her body arching like a bowstring, my hands mapping the scars of her choices. The betrayal came swift as a Sirocco wind. I'd been building a dossier, USB drives hidden in my camera bag, recordings of Victor admitting price gouging in offhand calls, emails redacted but recoverable. Nova was to present it at a whistleblower forum in Madrid, anonymous, a spark to ignite reform. But the night before, as we packed in our Barcelona pied-a-terre, a compromise apartment we'd claimed as neutral ground, my phone buzzed with an unknown text. She's playing you both. Check her browser history. Heart pounding, I waited until Nova stepped out for milk, then cracked her laptop. The tabs gutted me. Searches for rejoining Apex board. Drafts of emails to Victor. I've secured the leaks. Nora suspects nothing. A meeting scheduled for dawn. Father-daughter reconciliation. It was a double cross, her loyalty fracturing under the weight of legacy. Elena's fragile health the lever. When she returned, carton in hand, I confronted her, voice breaking. How long, Nova? How long have you been his again? She crumpled, tears carving rivers down her cheeks. I couldn't. He threatened to pull the treatments. Permanently. Said he'd bury us in lawsuits, make Elena a lab rat for competitors. Her hands reached for me but I recoiled. So you bury me instead? I trusted you, we ran for this. The argument escalated, words like shrapnel. Her accusations of my idealism, blinding us to reality. My rage at her cowardice chaining us anew. Elena woke crying, and in the chaos Nova fled into the night, leaving me with our daughter and a heart in shards. Days bled into weeks. Victor's machine ground on. Elena's checkups continued, a cruel mercy. I holed up in the apartment, shuddering my soul. shooting only Elena's gummy smiles to remind myself of light. Nova's calls went unanswered, her voicemails pleas laced with sobs. I did it to save her. Forgive me, amor. But forgiveness felt like surrender, and I'd run once for love. Could I run again alone? Then the call that redrew the map. Elena's latest scan showed regression. The mutation rebounding resistant. We need the next-gen vector, the doctor said, voice clinical over the line. Only Apex has it. And Mr. Reyes. He's withholding approval. Victor's gambit, clear as Mediterranean blue. Force Nova's full capitulation, or watch his bloodline fade. I stared at Elena's photo on the wall, her eyes, Nova's eyes, staring back, and realized the empire wasn't just stone and stock. It was us, the women it sought to break. Malaga called me back like a siren's song, the sea air a bomb against the sterile chill of Barcelona's high-rises. I packed Elena's things in the dead of night, diapers, her favorite rattle shaped like a flamenco dancer, the blanket Nova had knitted during her pregnancy, stitches uneven but full of hope. We slipped out before dawn, the Fiat's engine a whisper against the awakening city, heading south where the land turned wild and the Reyes reach thinned. Mama's adventure. I cooed to Elena in the rearview, her giggles a fragile shield as tears blurred the road. The casita welcomed us like an old lover, doors creaking open to the scent of jasmine and salt. But solitude was a cruel companion. Nights found me on the balcony, rocking Elena as waves crashed below, replaying Nova's betrayal in loops that carved deeper each time. Why hadn't I seen it? The late nights at the office, her evasive glances over café con leche. Love, I realized, was a blindfold we tied willingly, but removal left scars. Word traveled fast in Victor's web. By noon my phone was a barrage, Victor's assistants offering support, reporters sniffing for scandal, heir's lover flees with heiress's child. I smashed the SIM, switched to a burner bought from a street vendor in the market, his wink saying he knew trouble when he saw it. Freelance inquiries trickled in desperate, from indie outlets hungry for the human side of the Reyes saga. I ignored them, focusing on Elena. Playdates with neighborhood kids at the playa, her first steps wobbling across the tiled floor, each milestone a victory snatched from fate. Yet the illness lurked, a shadow puppeteer. Fevers came in waves, her energy ebbing like the tide, leaving her limp in my arms. The local doctor, a grizzled woman named Carmen with hands like olive branches, prescribed palliatives but shook her head. You need specialists. And that treatment. It's not for the likes of us. Her words echoed Victor's empire. Salvation for the stratified, crumbs for the rest. Desperation bred action. I started digging, late nights with Elena asleep beside me, laptop glowing like a forbidden fire. Apex's patents were fortresses, but cracks existed. Leaked memos from disgruntled employees. Forum whispers of a rogue researcher willing to trade. Nova found us a month in, on a sweltering July afternoon. I just returned from the mercado, arms laden with figs and fresh sardines, Elena napping in her stroller under the citrus tree. The knock was tentative, and there she stood, thinner, hollow-eyed, her black hair unkempt, wearing the same jeans from our last fight. Nora, she breathed, stepping forward, but I blocked the door, heart a war drum. How did you? She held up her phone, a tracking app I'd forgotten to disable on Elena's monitor. Please, just hear me. Against every instinct I let her in. We sat at the scarred wooden table, Elena between us like a truce flag, her chubby hands reaching for Nova's necklace, a locket with our wedding photo inside. Nova poured it out, the guilt gnawing her since the betrayal, Victor's escalating demands, full board seat, marriage to a suitable ally from the biotech elite, Elena as leverage. I went back to buy time, she said, voice raw. Fed him half-truths, stalled the audits. But he's closing in, threatened to expose your foster records, paint you as unstable, unfit. Her eyes, red-rimmed, searched mine. I was wrong. Terrified. But I love you. Both of you. The dam broke then, my anger flooding out in sobs that shook the table. You chose him. Over us. She reached across, fingers lacing with mine, and for a moment it was us again. Hands clasped in that bar, vows under the sun. No, she whispered. I chose survival. But survival without you. It's death. Elena cooed. Oblivious, and in her innocence we found fragile ground. Tentative truces. Nova staying the night on the couch, Then the bed, our touches hesitant, rebuilding trust brick by bruised brick. She brought intel from Apex, blueprints of the new vector, hidden in her phone's encrypted notes. "We steal it," she said one evening as fireflies danced outside. "Not for money, for Elena, for everyone." The plan coalesced over chorizo and wine. Maps spread like battle strategies. Nova's contact, Dr. Mateo, a mid-level geneticist disillusioned by Victor's greed, agreed to smuggle a sample, vials of the vector, enough for Elena's dose, hidden in lab equipment shipped to a neutral clinic in Granada. But risk shadowed every step. Surveillance at Apex, Victor's PI hounds on our trail. We moved like phantoms, Nova commuting under aliases, me scouting drop points with my camera as cover, Elena's daycare a network of trusted abuelas who asked no questions. Climax brewed in the cathedrals of our resolve. One night, as siesta heat clung like regret, Victor's call pierced the peace. Nova answered on speaker, her voice steel. "I'm done, Dad. Elena's with me. And the vector? It's ours now." His roar echoed. "Traitor. You'll rot in court. Intellectual property theft? Kidnapping." But beneath the bluster a crack, vulnerability. "She's my blood, Nova. Come home. I'll give it freely." She hung up, trembling, and I held her, our foreheads touching. "We end this," I said. "For her." The heist unfolded in Granada's labyrinthine streets, under the watchful eye of the Alhambra's minarets. Mateo met us in a shadowed taberna, passing the package in a breadbasket, unassuming, deadly precious. Elena waited in the car with a neighbor, her laughter filtering through the window like luck. But as we drove away, tires screeching toward the clinic, headlights flared in the rearview. Black SUVs, Victor's enforcers closing like jaws. The chase tore through olive groves, our Fiat fishtailing on dirt roads, heart in throat. Nova gripped the wheel, cursing in Catalan, while I clutched the package, whispering prayers to saints I'd ignored since childhood. A barricade loomed, police tipped off, and we veered into the hills, engine whining. "Hold on," Nova yelled as we plunged into a ravine path, branches clawing the windows. The lead SUV clipped our bumper, spinning us into a ditch, the world tilting in screams and dust. I came to with Elena's cries piercing the haze, Nova's hand on my cheek, blood trickling from her lip. Not deep, just a cut from the dash. The package intact miraculously. Footsteps crunched, Victor himself stepping from the trailing car, face thunderous in the moonlight. "Enough," he barked, guards flanking. "Give it back." "For Elena." Nova rose, unyielding, vial in hand. "No. You give it to the world, or we shatter it here." The standoff stretched eternal, wind howling through the gorge. Victor's eyes flicked to Elena, wailing in my arms, and something fractured. "Father, grandfather, man. You think you're saving her?" he said, voice cracking. "You're destroying everything I built." Nova stepped forward, fierce. "You built walls, Dad. We're tearing them down." "Silence, then." He gestured to his men, who backed off. "Take the dose." "But this isn't over." He turned, vanishing into the night, a king dethroned by his own blood. At the clinic, dawn breaking like a promise, Elena received the infusion. We waited in a side room, hands clasped, breaths synced. Hours later the doctor emerged. Stable, the markers retreating. Joy crashed over us, Nova's sobs mingling with mine. Elena's tiny fingers wrapping around ours. A circle unbroken. The aftermath was a quiet revolution, not the blaze we'd feared. Victor retreated to his villa, a ghost in his own empire. Boardroom whispers turning to lawsuits that fizzled under scrutiny. Nova's leaks, amplified by my photos in underground presses, painted him not villain but cautionary tale. Apex's stock dipped, then rebounded under reforms. Open access trials, scholarships for the underserved. Nova led the charge, her VP role a Trojan horse for change, while I documented it all, exhibits in Madrid galleries, fractured legacies. Elena's smile the centerpiece. But healing wasn't linear. Trust rebuilt in layers. Date nights in Malaga's jazz clubs, where Nova's hand in mine felt tentative, then sure. Therapy sessions in Seville, unpacking the betrayals like old luggage. "I feared losing her to you," Nova admitted once, over Helidu in a plaza fountain's spray. "No, you feared losing yourself to us," I replied, and in that truth we forgave. Elena thrived, her laughter a bridge. First words, "Mama." For both of us. toddling between our legs at family barbecues with Carmen and the abuelas. Victor's olive branch came unexpectedly, a letter arriving on parchment stationery, his script elegant but trembling. I was blind to the life you built, it read. Grandfather's Day, perhaps? No strings. We debated over merienda, Elena smearing jam on the tablecloth. One lunch, Nova said finally. For her. The villa felt less fortress that day, sunlight streaming through the glass, Elena on Victor's knee as he read her a tattered copy of The Little Prince. Awkward silences bridged by baby talk, his confession slipping out. I lost your mother young. Built walls to keep the pain out. Kept you out too. Nova's hand found mine under the table, a silent vow. We didn't return full-time. Our casita remained home, weekends in Barcelona a compromise. Nova balanced board meetings with ethical audits, her fire tempered but unquenched. I expanded my work, a book deal for runaways. Love in the Shadow of Empires, proceeds funding a scholarship in Elena's name for mitochondrial research, open to all. Protest side shot evolved into collaborations. Activists posing for portraits that humanized the fight, Nova speaking at rallies, her voice carrying over the crowds like a flamenco cry. Yet drama lingered in the margins, emotional undercurrents that tested our moorings. A scare 6 months post-infusion, Elena's cough mimicking relapse, sent us spiraling, Nova blaming herself anew, me retreating into silence. We fought in the kitchen, pots clanging like accusations, until Elena's puzzled stare pulled us apart, collapsing in a heap of apologies. We're human, I said, tracing her jaw. Flawed but ours. Romance rekindled in stolen moments. A sunset hike in the Sierra, her lips on mine tasting of wild thyme. Stargazing on the beach, Elena between us, pointing at constellations we named after our scars. The humanistic turn came full circle on Elena's 2nd birthday. A gathering under the casita's arbor, strung with lanterns like fireflies. Neighbors Mateo, now a partner in a non-profit lab. Even Victor, tentative, bearing a wooden rocking horse he'd carved himself, hands nicked from inexperience. Laughter flowed with sangria, Elena's cake smear a masterpiece, and as dusk fell, Nova pulled me aside, her eyes shimmering. We did it, she whispered. Ran broke rebuilt. I kissed her slow and deep, the world narrowing to us. The seas sigh, Elena's giggles, Victor's distant smile watching his legacy evolve not in boardrooms, but in this circle of chosen family. Life isn't fairy tale. Conflicts simmer, Victor's occasional barbs, the world's relentless churn. But in the quiet hours as Elena dreams and Nova's head rests on my shoulder, I know, love isn't absence of betrayal, but presence despite it. We ran once for freedom. Now we walk hand in hand toward whatever horizon calls. And in that salvation not from companies or cures but from each other. The rain that once chased us returned that night, soft now, a lullaby on the roof. Elena stirred, cooing, and Nova rose to soothe her, their silhouettes framed in the nursery light. I watched from the doorway, camera forgotten, heart full. We'd stolen more than a vial, we'd claimed our story imperfect, profound. And in the empire's shadow we'd built a kingdom of our own.